Welcome to Red Blue Flame Firefighting LLC, a leading supplier and installation service provider in UAE and North Africa. We supply, install and repair fire alarm control panel in Dubai and all other Emirates in UAE. Watch the video for more details about fire alarm control panel in UAE.
Alright, hey guys, so I'm getting fire alarms and such, and today we're going to be talking about the difference between a conventional and an addressable fire alarm control panel. So I do have three panels, and they are two different kinds. My Simplex 4010 and Notifier AFP 200 are both addressable fire alarm control panels. And then my Silent Night SK5208 is a conventional fire alarm control panel. So for some of you that are new to the, what's the word? We'll call it hobby of collecting and exploring fire alarm and fire alarm protective systems, one of the huge differences is between a conventional and, an addressable and a conventional fire alarm control panel. So we're going to be going through all three panels today and just basically talk about what their main differences are. So this is my conventional panel. If we open it up, one of the many characteristics of a conventional fire alarm control panel is just huge, long terminal strips with lots of resistors and lots of wires. Now in a real setting, resistors would be out in the field, but because this is a hobby system, I have my resistors in the panel so they don't get broken while changing pole stations. So that is a huge characteristic that will help you know that it is a conventional panel. It's just one big or couple big terminal strips going down, because this is your SLC side. This is your signaling line circuit. These are where all your initiating devices are going. Another characteristic of a conventional panel, but this is not always for conventional panels, because some addressable panels will have this, but the labeling of zones. If you have your big row of terminal strips and they're like zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, that is a big indicator of a conventional system. Because if we go over to an addressable system, instead of that huge big strip of terminals here, this right here does the same thing. And same within here. This does the exact same thing. This, and this all do the same thing. So what is the main difference? Well, a conventional panel is an older style panel. They're less expensive and easier to use and way less proprietary. So this one is a 10 zone panel. You can get 5 zone, you can get 2 zone, 4 zone, 10 zone, 30 zone, 100 zones. Like you can get a lot of zones on a panel. And the way that they work is you divide the building into separate sections. So say you have a 4-floor building. You have 10 zones. So you could say zone 1 was floor 1, but all the pole stations on floor 1. Zone 2 was floor 1, but all the smokes. Zone 3 was floor 2, all the poles. Zone 4, floor 2, all the smokes, so on and so forth. So you can chunk up the building into different zones. Now, what happens is when a zone is activated, you only know that that event is happening in a certain zone, and that zone can range from a stairwell to an entire floor of a building. So that they can be really big zones. Now with an addressable panel, you don't really have zones. You can have grouping zones for different points, but this panel and this panel use points. So the way this works is that there is one SLC cable that goes out to all your initiating devices. They go down through every initiating device. And each initiating device has a module in it. And these modules, you set the address on, and then it can send out a frequency back to the panel. So I'm going to show you what a notifier module looks like. I have one in the closet here. So this is just a notifier MMX1. This is a monitor module for my notifier AFP. You can see it is set to 0.7 because I have it set to 7. Some use rotary switches like this. Some use dip switches. It's all up to the manufacturer. And you can see that blinking light, that is the polling light. So that means every time it blinks, it's talking back to the fire alarm control panel. So same thing with all your smoke detectors. You can see they are blinking frequently as they're talking back to the panel, and a conventional smoke detector will only talk back whenever it's talking to the panel. They aren't going back and forth, it's just this to this. With these, the panel and the smoke detector are talking back and forth all the time. So the way that this would work is you can see I have M1 or just M01. So this is point 1. This isn't like a zone. There's only one device, not a whole area of devices or chunk of devices, just one device that is number 1. So if you pull it and it comes up on the screen as point 1, you know it is exactly this pull station. Not, oh, it could be one of the pull stations on the 3rd floor. No, it's pull station 1, which is on the 3rd floor by the west stairwell. You know exactly where it is. If there's a smoke detector that goes off, you know, oh, it's the smoke detector that's 10 feet from the doorway to the stairs on the 4th floor. You don't know, oh, it's just somewhere on the 4th floor. You can know down to the room. Like you say, oh, it's a smoke detector in room 264. And you know that's where the fire is. Now the downside to these is the cost, complexity, and that these will only work with their devices. A conventional panel will work with any conventional device. But an addressable panel will only work with modules that are from this manufacturer. So like I have 2 addressable panels. A simplex module is not going to talk to a notifier panel. A notifier module is not going to talk to a simplex panel. You need different devices that speak their own language. Each one speaks a different language, or protocols it's called. A conventional panel, just as long as it is a pull station that normally the contacts are apart, it works. And as soon as those contacts are closed, it goes into alarm. So another way you will hear addressable said is intelligent. So you see this one says intelligent. And these can do a lot more than just say, oh, it's pull station 1. In the terms of a smoke detector, we're going to go in on my simplex panel here. You can actually go in and see the current status of any point. So if I go into, I am talking to the smoke detector in the back room, I can scroll and you can see there is 0% smoke concentration in it, and we are at 0% of alarm threshold. And it will tell you your peak, like how high the smoke got. So you can see it has 0% in it. But if I go and shoot a little solo into it, this will make the values, hopefully I got enough in there, start to jump up. I talked about this in I think I was talking about with the heat detector in a video. It was like cool simplex heat detector or something. It may not gotten enough in there to register. But you can go in and see the current status of a smoke detector and read it in real time. Hope it's going to alarm. Crap, I got too much in there. Alright, so you can see it's at 100% of alarm. So if we go back, oops, I didn't click it. So if we go into that smoke detector and go down, you can see it is at 2.5% concentration of smoke. But if I go and fan it out a bit to let the smoke concentration drop, just kind of get some air around it, air it out a bit. The smoke concentration now drops. It is at 22% of alarm threshold, and now there's only 0.1% of smoke concentration in there. So now you can reset. The same thing works with intelligent heat detectors. So this one has a heat detector built in. You can see the real-time temperature that the heat probe is at. With a conventional panel, you can't do any of that. You just know either it's an alarm or it's not. So there are drawbacks to both. These ones are cheaper and usually good for smaller things, and they work with more devices and a wider range of inputs. These are better for large scale, they're more expensive, and only work within their brand, but you get more precise monitoring. I'm trying to think, really, is there anything else? Really, the only difference between an addressable and a conventional panel is the fact that this one just listens for a closed circuit. And it one of the things, supervision. It supervises through a relay, or not a relay, I'm sorry, a resistor, looking for that small trickle to come back. This one is listening for the module to talk to it about what's happening right exactly now. It's listening to all those different frequencies. And these ones you don't have to supervise with a resistor. Now again, that's up to different codes, but these ones you don't have to, because it's only listening for a module. So if the module's not talking back, you know, okay, I'm not hearing you anymore, something's wrong. So if I go back and I shut off my SLC to my notifier panel, so this is my SLC shut off. Basically what it does is there's a whole bunch of modules in here. This disconnects the power going to them so I can service the panel. So if I disconnect that, I go into trouble and it's telling me invalid reply, meaning it can't hear that module anymore. This one, if I were to take out the resistor, it would just give me an open trouble, meaning, hey, the wire's cut. This one is telling me, hey, I don't know what's happening, but I'm not hearing it anymore. So you can have it detect if just one device went bad, which this one won't detect if a pull station goes bad, because this one is constantly checking. And with supervision, because this doesn't have resistors, this means you can T-tap off wires. This one you have to daisy chain through each device to get supervision. This one you can branch and T-tap off the wires because you don't need that end-of-line supervision. You just need the modules to be able to talk back to the panel. I really think that's it. Other than the fact that one other good thing is if, say, you do need to work on a pull station and replace it, you would have to disable the entire zone. So like on this one, I would go to disable zone 1, and zone 1 is now disabled. Now on my system, I only have one pull station hooked up, so that's one pull station. But in a building, again, that could be an entire floor of pull stations. Now that whole floor doesn't have a working pull station. If I wanted to come in here, I could disable. If I want to disable this pull station, I can make it to only disable 0.1, meaning the pull station that could be right next to it works, but this one would not. I would have turned it off. So you can very selectively talk to each pull station. It's really just selective, general. That's really the huge difference. You can selective talk, general talk. So, thank you guys for watching. And, as always, have a wonderful day.